Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining me for another iteration of the Molog Morning Digest. Now, as always, there's a few things you can do to help our channel grow. That is, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, but most importantly, please share the content. You can make a donation at paypal.me/Molog Morning Digest. No obligation, but if you can, I'd appreciate it. I'd like to hop into the coronavirus update for the day, and we're going to start where we started yesterday by discussing what's been going on inside of Iran and what the lack of Iranian control has led to in the Middle East, because in my opinion, Iran is 100% responsible for the outbreak that we have seen take place in the Middle East. I don't know how many of you are aware, but the health minister for Iran did an interview, and during this interview he was constantly wiping sweat away from his head, while at the same time telling the people of his country that this virus is more or less contained and they are on top of everything. Well, it turns out shortly after he announced and did that press conference, right, he tests positive for the coronavirus. His preliminary test comes back. He's in quarantine, and he goes out and does another video shortly after receiving his second test, saying he most definitely has it, but his condition is ultimately okay. However, just by watching him in that video, his health is deteriorating rapidly from what I've seen as far as his public announcements and what I've seen on the radio and the TV. Now, we have to consider the fact that countries en masse right now are stopping all travel to and from Iran, including Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Jordan, etc., etc. And the reason they're doing this is because all of the cases that those countries have seen have had direct contact with Iran. And as I said yesterday, just by the announcements and deaths, which they've added a few more to that list from yesterday, have no correlation with the statistical findings from any other country. And as I've said, and I haven't seen any other media company, any other independent YouTuber mention this at all, I think the reason that this thing spread so quickly in Iran is because they didn't cancel their elections when they had foresight of this virus ahead of time, and that just allowed it to spread like an absolute wildfire. While we have all of this going on, there was a meeting between advisors from 27 different countries, right? They met, and while they were meeting, none of their leaders at all had masks on. None, right? And then all of a sudden, some of these leaders start having symptoms. It turns out that these symptoms had nothing to do with the coronavirus. However, just the leaking of that information and the fact that some of those people felt unwell caused the stock market in the United States and in Europe to drop over 3 points, ultimately erasing 3 months of rallying that our stock market had done to reach all-time highs previously. So, just since the beginning of this coronavirus, the economic downturn has wiped out 3 months of economic rallying. I want you to wrap your heads around that, and that's what's going on with the U.S. stock market and the European stock market. However, the Chinese stock market just reported all of their findings from the New Year celebration, or what should have been a celebration, the New Year layover from their economy, right? And it turns out that the Chinese economy is up throughout that entire period. And not only that, but they're up by the same exact amount that the Western markets are down, which I just find very interesting. And that's because the Chinese economy has just been pumping and pumping and pumping money into it from the government. You can only keep that up for so long. And this lets me draw even more correlation to the fact that China is using this as an economic weapon at the moment. Because what happens from this point forward is very, very key to pay attention to. So, if the Chinese economy, on paper, hasn't taken a hit, right? And our economies and stock markets have. What that does is it puts China into a position of power when it comes to the economic driving factors inside of the world economy. And I think this is exactly what China had up their sleeves all along, because if you think about it, in the long run, China will come out on top of this if it spreads to the rest of the world the same way that it hit China. Because China dealt with it first, their economy is going to recover first. And on top of that, the rest of the world is over 90% dependent on all of their imports from China. There's no way avoiding pumping the Chinese economy through the roof as the rest of the world tries to recover from this virus when it comes. The CDC inside of the United States just announced that it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when we are going to deal with community outbreaks of this inside of the United States. And I want to point to California as a day of reckoning for all of you to think about, because there's over 8,000 people right now inside of California that have put themselves under self-quarantine, all right? 8,000, and that's because they feel as though they may have contracted the coronavirus. And they've done this themselves. They haven't been instructed by the government. Do you want to know how many tests the CDC has done nationwide? They've only done 427 tests nationwide for the coronavirus. And the reason being is they are not testing anybody who hasn't been to China or who hasn't been in direct contact with somebody who has the disease, which is a fatal mistake. Absolutely fatal in my opinion. And the only reason that you would do that and not try to get out ahead of it is if you want this thing to reach the community level inside of the United States. While at the same time all of this is happening, we have a lot going on behind the scenes. Donald Trump just requested $2.4 billion to fight the coronavirus. China just announced to their citizens via text message that they are not to travel to the United States, which is very unlike China. China usually tells their citizens that they advise against traveling to the United States. However, right now they are telling their citizens, for whatever reason, you are not to travel to the United States. And this has me thinking, if we're requesting $2.4 billion, China right now is telling their citizens, don't go to the United States. The CDC has admitted that it's not a matter of if, but when, and they've only tested 427 people. All of that is adding up to, we're looking at a ticking time bomb, and there's no way around that. See the same thing going on in Canada, by the way. There's a doctor up there who got x-rays done after feeling though he had symptoms of the coronavirus, and it shows the upper respiratory issues that the coronavirus presents, right? But the government's not testing him. Now, this doctor says that he has come in contact with Asian people at his practice who have traveled to that region, right? They came back home, and they themselves are presenting symptoms. So if a doctor tied to the National Health Organization of Canada isn't getting testing because he doesn't meet the strict criteria that they have, then who the hell is? Not very many people. All of that leads us right back to the epicenter of China and what we can expect to see inside of our own countries if you are not prepared for this and you find yourself caught off guard, okay? I've seen videos, and I'm not going to sit here and act like this isn't a little bit hyperbolic, but it's something that you need to pay attention to. There's videos coming out of South Korean media. There's videos coming off at Channel 4 News on YouTube, right, of people being put into body bags inside of the epicenter of China that are still alive. I saw this with my own two eyes, okay? There's reports that these people are being cremated alive from eyewitnesses that have recovered from this and been released from the hospital, that have witnessed people being put into body bags and disappearing that were still alive. Granted, she did say they were in critical condition, etc., etc. However, if China is putting people that are still alive in body bags, no matter how critical they are, that should be an eye-opener right there. Period. The end. Okay? The thing is, right, if the CDC is admitting that it's not a matter of if, but when, there comes a point when the virus itself isn't the most dangerous thing, okay? And I have stressed this, and I will keep stressing it because it is going to save lives. You need to stock up on the necessary supplies, face masks, gloves, enough food to sustain your family for a given period of time. I'd say at least a month. And I'm not talking about anything fancy. Go out and buy a 20-pound bag of rice and a 20-pound bag of lentils and a few 5-gallon jugs of water, and just be prepared for it. Because, like I said, man, it's not the virus that's going to be the problem. It's going to be the response of everybody around you who wasn't ready for this thing. I've been warning you for a month, and everything I said that was going to happen has happened step by step by step. You don't have to believe me. Do your own research. My track record is pretty damn good. I'm doing this because it'll end up saving a life. I don't make any advertisement money off of this, and if anything, I've taken a hit to my reputation just by talking about this in the manner that I am. But if I can open my own two eyes and use logic to put these pieces together, just based on what I know about how people are and the way that the world reacts in similar situations, it's a ticking time bomb, my friends. God bless you and your families. They are what is most important. And if you're in a situation where this thing is getting closer and closer to you, get prepared. God bless and have a wonderful day.